Hey friend, Michelle Dennis Evans here. Welcome to Creator to Write, where we turn blank pages into finished work. You'll be encouraged, inspired, and learn practical strategies to move forward with your writing, whether you're just starting out or ready to level up your craft. And if you're looking for ways to support your creative work with an additional income stream, I'd love to chat with you. Please reach out on social. Now for today's episode. Today, I am with my lovely friend, Nola. Welcome, Nola. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Hi, thanks, Michelle. It's lovely to be here. So thanks for having me on your show. Um, I write under the name Nola Lorraine, which is my middle name, and I write sort of in a range of things. I'm a bit of a genre butterfly. I write fiction, nonfiction, poetry, devotions, and in terms of fiction, I've written historical, contemporary, and a few sci-fi. So it sounds like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm actually, the way I see it is I'm just kind of interested in the story. So one of the big things that drives me is the whole idea of social justice. And that, so to me, it doesn't matter so much if it's a true story or if it's fiction or if it's set in the past, present, future, but that's a theme that runs through a lot of what I do. So maybe not everything, but a lot of what I do. So the catchphrase I've sort of used is weaving words of courage and hope. So no matter what it is that people have come across of mine, I hope that it gives them some courage and hope.
I love that. Weaving words of courage and hope. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you always want to be a writer? When did you know that you wanted to write?
It's one of those things in terms of creative, yes. Writing came a little bit later. I've sort of been a creative person ever since I was a preschooler, believe it or not. But my first creative pursuit, I suppose, was music. I was one of those kids that, you know, very young age, I was able to pick up tunes and songs easily. And my first creative endeavors were probably songwriting, believe it or not, when I was wrote my first proper song with guitar chords when I was 11 and went through everything in high school. I did lots of poetry and songs. So writing stories and that sort of thing came later, though English was always my best subject at school. So I've always been a creative in that sense. I was always the one that did the skits and everything. I remember my grade 4 teacher on my report card wrote interested in acting, very good, which my mother must have thought was a very strange thing to write on my report card. um, and I was rather proud. I was a university academic for 25 years. And when I left that job and told people I was leaving, not one person asked me anything to do with my job. Everyone wanted to know what would happen to the Christmas skits once I left. And I took great pride in that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so I know a little bit about your personal journey, and you have shared it in anthologies and when you've written parts of it in different areas. Would you like to share some of what has come out of your personal journey that's influenced your writing?
That's an interesting one because I've written nonfiction pieces and devotions as well, but in terms of fiction too. So one thing that's come up a fair bit is my adoption experiences because I was adopted as a baby. And I've written a range on that, including academic articles when I was a university academic, but also devotions, short memoir pieces. And my novel Scattered, although it wasn't adoption so much, but it was a topic that was close to my heart, in that it was based around the true story of the Canadian home children who were sent from Britain to Canada in the late 1800s and even into the 1900s, who were supposed to be orphans, so they presumably sent for a better life. But as we've since found out in many different countries, a lot of them didn't have that great life that they were promised, and some of them weren't even orphans. They were just kids on the street or poor children. And I found out their story on one of my trips to Canada. So that's interesting. And that sort of, I suppose, again, being adopted myself, I could kind of relate to the idea of, you know, being like an orphan and in a new country and yeah, that sort of thing. So I suppose that resonated with me and led to the whole of Scattered. So although Scattered is fictitious, it's based in that whole true scenario. So my heroine Maggie spends the whole book searching for her brother and sister who are mistakenly sent from England to Canada without her knowledge.
That's a good book. Good read.
Thank you. I think all of us we've got things that we're passionate about. I've got lots of interests too that have probably got nothing to do with my personal stories, but I think the things that resonate with you, even if someone has a different story themselves, some of that you hope will resonate with them. So even like in that, so if somebody's reading that book and they haven't got any experience with adoption or fostering or orphans or anything, hopefully some of the lessons that the characters learn are still kind of relevant and resonate with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we met through one of the writing communities here in
Yes.
Brisbane. And so tell me, what has the community of the writers community, what does that mean to you and how does that play a role in your life?
It's sort of been critical, really, because to be honest, when I was, like say even at school, back in those days, this is back in the dark ages, Michelle, when I was at school, English is my best subject. I love my English teachers, but not one of them even suggested that we should send something to a competition or that there were groups or that there were things you could do. It was just not on the radar. Whereas kids these days, if they actually learn creative writing and just we might learn how to write a haiku or something. There was no indication that you could do anything with this. So when I found out about these writing communities, it was a bit of a revelation that there's whole groups of people out there who run workshops and get together and send stuff off to different places to get published. And yeah, so it really opened up a lot. And I think meeting other like-minded people and going to conferences and then connecting with those people again on social media, I think it really helps you not just learn more skills, but just that networking and knowing you've got other like-minded people. So I guess I've been part of the wider writing communities like online groups and national conferences, but also we've got a local group that
Mm.
does a lot of things. And yeah, it's just great when I think over the last 15 years or so, just the number of friends I've made through those circles is just amazing. So if anybody has never joined a group, I would just strongly advise them. But I guess it has to be the right kind of group. So I've heard of people say, oh, they went to a writing group, it just didn't kind of suit them. And I suppose that's the thing about finding your tribe. Like, what do you write? If you're a Christian writer, there are lots of Christian writers groups out there. If you write historical fiction, there's historical fiction groups, etc., etc. So if you find your tribe, it's really great.
Yeah, and I believe that we're built for community and it's such an isolating thing to do to write. So being part of a community actually helps us grow in our writing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can cheer each other on. Like there was a writing competition. You probably know about this closed yesterday, and a few people in our group were submitting things to that. So again, it's just, people were submitting the things and other people were giving comments and then they were sending it off. And then if you hear someone's been included in the anthology, you cheer them on. And if someone didn't get included, you encourage them, don't give up, let's try something else. So I think it's that, writing can be a very isolating experience if you're just sitting in your study typing away and not having any contact with any other people. It can just be very isolating. So I
Mm.
think those, for any kind of creative person, I think, yeah, having other like-minded people is really helpful.
Yeah. Yes. And letting someone else read your work and helping with getting it better. So
Yeah. And I
so
think that community idea of people helping each other, like, okay, I'll read your draft, but then you might read my draft. It's not like you expect it, like, I'll do
mm,
this for you if you do that for me, but it becomes a mutual thing where it's mutual support and encouragement. And
mm,
every now and then, like on social media, you'll see somebody who seems to pop into a group, spends a few weeks advertising their book, but they never contribute to it anything or never answer a question or never do anything else. And you think they're just there to market themselves. So
that's
that's not
right.
really the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's a mutual thing in a community where there's
Yeah, more of a community.
when you're giving out as well as receiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is there anything else that you'd like to share? Something you've learned or noticed along your journey?
I think one of the things more recently I've learned is well, I am writing the sequel to Scattered, which has taken me an awfully long time. But I've had a devotional book come out in the meantime called Comfort Zone. And a few people were surprised, like, how come you've written devotion? Where's the sequel coming? um, and the short answer is I felt that's what God was leading. But I think it's important to share, like you were talking before about our personal journeys, and I think that resonates with people. And I think I've had to learn over the years that it's okay to be vulnerable because sometimes, especially if you're a bit of a quiet person or a bit of an introvert, you don't necessarily want to put yourself out there and think, oh, I can't share that, or what will they think if I say that? But I think people really resonate with those personal stories. So in the devotion I've done, there's a lot of them that at the beginning it'll start with a little personal anecdote and then relate it to scripture. And I've been getting good feedback from it, but I haven't had anyone say, wow, I really love that theological point you made on page 21. They're saying, oh, that story when you said such and such, I can relate to that because when I was a kid, da, da, da. So I think if we're willing to put ourselves out there, it can help other people. But there's a real wisdom, though, in knowing who your audience is and what to share with whom and when. And if your story interacts with other people, which all of us, none of us are islands, but the ones I've shared in this book aren't like that. But I know some people who've had some very difficult things, like they might have been abused as a child or something like that. And you think if you can't share that without also talking about other people, and even if you change names, people know who you're talking about. So there can be a real wisdom in knowing how do you share that and when and who, in what forum, and those sorts of things. So that's something I'm still learning to, and you can't please everyone no matter what you do. You can take all the care in the world and there'll still be, Auntie so-and-so is not happy you said that about the family picnic.
Yeah.
And in the end, you just have to think, well, I've tried to do it the best way I can. I felt that was what God was leading me to do.
Yeah.
Just leave the results out there, knowing you can't please everyone. And I suppose I always say to people, I'm recovering compliant. If you know the boundaries, things that are in, I'm a recovering compliant. Always have tended to be a bit of a people pleaser, but trying to come out of that and think you just can't please everyone. If you're a writer, even if you win the Nobel Prize for Literature, you'll have a bad review there somewhere.
Someone won't like what you've done somewhere. That's right. Yeah.
So, and some books are very controversial, like 5-star reviews and 1-star reviews. So you're not going to please everyone. So I think you just have to get over that idea. Yeah. So I suppose that's one of the big things I've learned, and just how do you share personal information that you're not so pussyfooting around that people don't know what you're talking about, but on the other hand, being sensitive to other people who might be in your story, but also
Yeah.
sharing what might be helpful to someone else.
Yeah. That's right. It has a lot to do with how you write it as well, in
Yeah.
that sharing type way rather than dobbing in on somebody or
Yeah.
something bad about something. Like it's just this is my point of view of how something happened.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think it's just it is that sort of wisdom, but knowing what you should share. So some people just out there, there's any opinion they have. Yeah, oh, that's my honest opinion. Just share it and think, well, why are you sharing that? Is that going to be helpful for you
yeah,
or for anyone to share that, or are you just getting something off your chest? Um,
that's
so I think sometimes we need to stop and think. Yeah, it would be important to share this story because there'll be other people who've had this situation and they might benefit from hearing how I work with that. There might be other thing. No, that's just me venting about so and so. So no, I don't
yeah,
need to share that.
yeah. I love the way you said that. Yeah, that's right. I agree. And the wisdom, it does. It comes back to wisdom. And sometimes in writing, I know that I'll just blurb stuff out, even though I only write fiction. And then as I go back and edit it, I go, oh, I can see that's just me having a vent in that area. Let's revise that.
Let's just revise that, or somebody might. Yeah, and I
I
think
might
that's.
pick up on that part.
And I think there's other bits because, of course, none of us write in fiction any issues to do with anything to do with ourselves.
Complete fiction we write, complete fiction.
Complete fiction revised. um, but yeah, I think we're all affected by our experiences, even when we think we're being completely objective. None of us can completely divorce ourselves from, our culture, our family, our schooling, different things we experienced. So we can try to look at things objectively, but we have all been affected by those things as well. So I think if we're aware of that, and thinking, oh, a bit of my hurt came out in that bit, and it probably wasn't the best way to do that there, or
Yeah,
something.
so good. So good.
A thinly veiled work colleague who's now a character in your book.
And bottom line is we're never going to please everyone all the
No,
time.
exactly. So you can take all the care in the world and you just have to, I suppose, put it before God and just trust it, knowing that you'll sometimes make mistakes. And there'll be sometimes you'll look at things and say, oh, yeah, I should have phrased that differently. Oh, well. And apology if required, but
Absolutely.
otherwise you just sometimes you just think, oh well, I'm sorry they took it that way. That's not what I meant. Well, because we're not responsible for other people's reactions.
We aren't. You're right. You're so right. And so you mentioned the sequel. So yes, you're working on the sequel.
Scattered.
And is there anything else you're working on at the moment?
I think one of my problems is I have too many ideas, and I blame God because I feel like God's given me lots of ideas. But yes, I'm tentatively, well, at the moment, the main thing I'm working on is there is a second devotional that my publisher has already agreed to. So I'm writing that at the moment. I'm about half to 2/3 of the way through my draft of that second devotional. So hopefully that will come out next year. And I'm on my final edits of a 10,000 word sci-fi short story, which is the longest short story I've ever written. But fantasy and sci-fi people will tell you that's a drop in the bucket. That's short for most sci-fi fantasy people. It's long for me. So yeah, I've got to do those edits. But other books I have in the pipeline, apart from my long-awaited, very slow sequel to Scattered, I've also had a lot of short pieces published over the years, lots of short stories and so on. So I wanted to get an anthology of some of those together, but some of those I'm revising, and because some of them were for competitions have word limits and that, and I wasn't quite happy with it, and even though it was published, so some of those I'm revising and want to include a couple of new ones as well. And a long cherished dream has been to have a poetry collection out, so I've been in various stages of that for years. So I'm hoping that in the next few years there'll be a flurry and there'll be a devotional, a sequel to Shattered, poetry collection, and an anthology.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Bring it on.
Me too. I need to live to 90 to write all these things I'm meant to be writing. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Nola, for joining me today. Is there any words of wisdom, parting words that you would like to leave our listeners?
Oh, I don't know about parting words of wisdom, but I think no matter why we're writing, I suppose just thinking that whole idea of what truth would we like to communicate, but also thinking of the way we do it and who we're communicating it with, and thinking we want to leave the world better than we found it, or at least leave something that's a bit of a legacy. And I suppose that's why I try to have some hope in all of them. So even if we're writing about difficult things, you don't want your readers to go away and think, oh, I'm so glad I read that. But even if you're dealing with difficult topics, to bring that hope in, that see, we all do have hope, and that's a good thing to hang on to.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Nola. And if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to drop all of Nola's details in the comments below. Please go follow her, and we shall catch you next time on the Created to Create show.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for hanging around till the end. Please remember to leave a review if you've enjoyed this podcast and share it with a friend. You never know who is wanting to get those words out of their head and into a book.